I am here tonight to give you an update. Bob, you can go ahead and click. So I'm going to tell you a story of how I figured out that the Guildford County GOP election was being rigged and how I've been trying to blow the whistle to stop it. Next slide. So before I get to my story, I am going to do a very brief crash course on the following things. And this is going to be very brief. We're not going to dive into these things deeply because we'll be here all night if we try to really explain all of this. So we're going to talk about the annual precinct meeting and the county convention and how they're connected, precincts and delegates, precincts and precinct committeemen, organized and unorganized precincts, and the county convention. Next slide. So annual precinct meetings and the county convention are connected in a lot of ways. But the one that we're really going to talk about tonight is how the delegates that are elected at the annual precinct meeting vote in the election for the party's leadership. Next slide. So the election of delegates. So I've created this little example here. A, B, C, D, and E are examples. These are our example precincts, right? So the number of delegates that each precinct is allowed to have is based on a formula for the state. So in my little example here, precinct A is allowed to have 2, B5, C10, D24, E7. This is based on how many registered Republicans are in your precinct. So the the state's formula, that's how they determine how many delegates your precinct gets. And if you want more delegates in your precinct, then you need to get out and go register more Republicans in your precinct. Next slide. So when it comes time to electing the delegates, that happens at the annual precinct meeting, and we've already had that. So in my little example up here, these little people are the people who showed up to our precinct meeting here in this little visual. And so in precinct A, you see that we have 5 people who showed up. B2, C3, you can see D1, E, 4 people. So typically, if you show up to the precinct meeting, pretty much you're automatically a delegate unless more delegates, next slide, show up than are allowed to be in a precinct, and then you will elect delegates. So at our annual precinct meeting, we broke out into groups by district, and the district chair was supposed to guide everybody through electing the delegates for their precinct, meaning making sure, they don't have more. And so I think after that, it goes into alternates and things like that, but we're not really going down that path because that's irrelevant for what we're talking about tonight. Next slide. So after that, now we're going to elect our precinct chairs. Okay. So you elect your precinct chairs first. Technically, you're kind of a delegate once you walk in the door. So you elect your precinct chair. In my example here, as you can see, the crown equals the precinct chair. We've got 2 precincts who didn't elect a chair, which happened in a lot of precincts. That happened in about 34 of the, how many precincts do we have represented, Dina?
We have, how many precincts do we have represented? 83.
And then I think about 34 of them were unorganized. 35.
Unorganized, that definition changed.
Next slide. So, what we were just talking about, are our precincts organized? And the definition changing is something that seems to be happening a lot, which is why I'm giving this update, because oftentimes I'm finding that these definitions are changing, but they can't be cited anywhere in the plan. Next slide. So the state plan says about unorganized precincts. So in the state plan, it says, and this part is highlighted, that if a precinct fails to organize, that the chairman of the county is supposed to elect a temporary precinct chair. So we have reached out to about 5 different county chairs across North Carolina, and this is what they all do. This is what they have done forever. Next slide. So there's this other section, there's 2 places in the state plan where organized or unorganized precincts are talked about. That first one was page 7, I think this one's page 33. So this one, and this is from the administrative procedures section, and it's very word salady. So I will read it. No person shall be seated as a delegate at any county, district, or state convention unless such person shall have personally attended the annual precinct meeting. I'm going to pause right there. There are two other places in the state plan that very specifically say that you do not have to be in attendance at the precinct meeting to be a delegate, which is why we had the waivers. All right, going back to where I was. Okay, and shall have been duly elected a delegate or alternate by the appropriate precinct meeting or county convention, except the registered Republican or Republicans present at a county convention from an unorganized precinct which has not had its credentials accepted shall have the right to vote, one per precinct, prorated among those present from that precinct. For those who are unable to attend the precinct meeting, each county plan of organization may provide for a procedure to permit the election of persons to be delegates and alternates to the county and state convention. Do you see how this contradicts itself? Anybody else notice that? All right, not just me. All right, next slide. And that's what we just talked about. Precinct members do not need to be in attendance in order to be elected as delegates or alternates. Next slide. All right, so next slide. That's what we talked about. That's how they're connected. So what's going to be voted on by our votes at the county convention? The first thing I think that gets voted in is the rules. And then the credentials reports and the delegates, and then the rules, and then what? We've got motions.
No, then we got plan of organization.
All right, then we got plan of organization, and is that when people who will have a plan of organization, they bring that to the floor?
Yep.
Okay. And then is it motions?
Then we're gonna have minutes.
Minutes?
It's all in the convention program, okay?
Or we're telling what the convention program says tonight. So then minutes,
Minutes and plan of organization, candidates and resolutions.
plan of organization, minutes is before plan of organization?
So basically, the way it works is the first thing you're gonna vote on is the credential delegates, second thing you're gonna vote on is the rules, then you're gonna vote on the agenda. After the agenda, then you're gonna do the minutes, then you're gonna do plan of organization, candidates, and resolutions.
And resolutions. All right. And this is all done by Robert's Rules of Order. Next slide. All right, next slide. I think I'm about done. All right, so I think everybody here probably understands how all of that works. So go to the next slide. All right, so let's talk about my story. This is what I'm here to report to you on. So the day after the candidate forum that we had, I've been talking to Dina about what's been going on. Dina is also on our slate. So she tells me that somebody from the state has contacted them and told them that they are now, I guess, under scrutiny because of the plan of organization that's been called into question because the Guilford County plan does not outline any legit procedures for the convention or the precinct meeting. And so the state wants us to go by the state plan, and they say that we need to do a weighted vote. Okay, what is, nope, no more questions from the floor. So they say we need to do a weighted vote, and so I say, what does that mean? So that means, let's use the example, and this is irrelevant of organized or unorganized precincts. All right, so I say, what does a weighted vote mean? Okay, well that means, here we go, in precinct B, it's only got 2 people. Oh wait, no, I'm gonna use precinct C. It's only got 3 people showing up. Oh, I'm gonna be honest with you, I did my math wrong. I meant to put 2 people in C for this example. That's unfortunate. All right, we're gonna pretend I actually put 2 people in C because it makes the math easier. So C is allowed 10 votes, right? So in a weighted voting situation, the two people show up, and each of their votes count 5 times. So that's a weighted vote. So I know that's not the way it's going to be. Just let me tell my story here, okay? So this is what I am told. And then I'm told that this is going to complicate the election greatly, and that Dina's already found people that have created a spreadsheet tabulation and got all the delegates into it and gotten it working for how you would have to tabulate those votes. So I just want to really emphasize that a spreadsheet was created that somebody could just run scenarios in, right? With those weighted votes, who could win? That's interesting, whose delegates are whose. Fascinating. So this gets created, and I ask what's happening. David is out sick. So David hasn't had any approval yet. He doesn't know about it. So it's just kind of all in the wind. So the next update I get is that everything has changed again, and that the state doesn't want us to do weighted votes. They want us to do prorated votes. So what does a prorated vote mean? So that means that D, precinct D, this one guy, oh wait, hold on, I'm dyslexic in my math. That means, okay, the prorated votes are only in the unorganized precincts. Sorry, guys, it's late. It's been a long day. All right, so the prorated votes are only in unorganized precincts. So we've got 35 unorganized precincts, and what that's going to mean for these precincts is that is going to mean that if the precinct is allowed 6 delegates, right, there's 6 delegates in that precinct, they're only allowed 1 vote, their vote is going to count as 1/6 of a vote. The other scenario I heard was that these people would have to get together and come up with a majority vote for what their vote would be for. That one I heard less than the other one, which the prorated would mean basically diluted votes. So you'd show up to the convention and your vote would not count as 1 vote. So, and all of this is based on that state plan, page 33 that we looked at, okay? So once I heard this, I was asked, how do I feel about this? And I was asked about the weighted vote. How do I feel about this? And I said the same thing I would always say. You have to follow the rules. If that is what it says, then that is what you have to do. I also asked, who from the state is trying to make you follow these rules? And I could never get an answer. So, at this point, all of this starts to feel kind of weird to me. So I call my mentor, Jim Womack in Lee County. And he says, that's absolutely ridiculous. Nobody does that. Nobody's ever done that. The chairman is supposed to organize their precincts before they go into the convention. That's what everybody does. That's how it's always done. So I bring that up, and I'm told that they can't just assign somebody they don't know to a precinct. And so at this point, David is still out sick, and now Chris is acting chair. And Chris is kind of saying, I think, the same thing I am. He's like, well, if the state is saying this, I guess it's all very confusing. Why is the state saying this, and who are they? So finally, once Chris got into acting chair and he found out some information, he was able to help me. And so he sent me who the state, who they were talking to, and it was Matt Judge, the political director. So, hold on, let me get to where I am. Oh, but before we get to Matt Judge, so before I find out about Matt Judge, all my red flags went up because I then found out that out of these 35 unorganized precincts, that there's no way they could become organized, that 8 magically became organized based on some parameters that are found nowhere in the plan. The parameters were if they had a waiver and were a precinct chair in the past, or if they had a waiver and were a vice chair in the past. That is nowhere in the state plan. It does not say that. It does not say that you can do that. I do not know where these parameters came from. So that's when I reached out to Jim Womack again, and he was like, you need to go blow the whistle and put pressure on these people because this is wrong. This is not supposed to happen. So that's when I started blowing the whistle. I called Aaron, I called everybody I knew to try to start figuring out who we can talk to get this resolved. Then Chris, I talked to Chris, who was very helpful. He sent me the email to let me know that Matt Judge is the person that they are talking to. So during this time, I get a call from a guy, or I get contacted from someone else who has a guy that's trying to get in touch with me, and this guy's name is Al Bolden. I've never met this man in my life. I talked to him for quite a while on the phone, and I asked him what he thought about the voting system. And I said to him, you know, I'm glad Dina's in there working so hard trying to figure all this out. And he said, oh, no, it's not Dina. It's my man Marcus in there. Kinley. It's my man Marcus in there working on this. That's a really good question. Still trying to figure that one out. So now we've got Marcus and we've got Matt Judge. These are two state people. So Aaron and I start putting a lot of pressure on people to do the right thing. David comes back and is starting to get wind of this. And all of a sudden, magically, Marcus has a meeting with the state plan of organization committee because he's on that committee. And he posts on Facebook about it, and magically they decide that Guildford County GOP convention can move forward with one vote per person because, I don't know, maybe you're caught. So we think, yay, we won. Cool, they're gonna go forward. It's gonna be one vote per person. You know, give it a couple hours. Nope, just kidding, because now, what's his name? No, the GOP, the North Carolina GOP General Counsel. Russ Ferguson has made a ruling that the plan of organization committee made is not in effect yet, and Guildford has to do prorated votes. What? Okay, this has never happened ever before in the history of everything. If this were to happen, this would set the most ridiculous precedent for not only Guildford County, but GOPs all across the state. So now, I mean, there's so many things that could go wrong with this. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you're going to have people trying to rig the vote to work the algorithm because they know how, by having organized and unorganized precincts. And what are you going to get? You're going to get a bunch of precincts that nobody's really doing anything because their only motivation was to help rig a vote. And then you're disenfranchising voters. I'll get you in 1 second. So finally, here we are. Oh, Aaron, can you bring me my drink? David is back. And he has sent out a letter saying that this is all fixed. We're going to get one vote per one person, right? I don't know. Maybe. So the one thing, I should about tried to put the cap back on the microphone. The one thing that we need to know is how he fixed it. Because here's the thing. Anything can happen on that convention floor. If these precincts are still unorganized, okay, somebody can come in and put forth a set of rules that says a plan of organization will go into effect immediately upon being voted on at the county convention. Now, let's say that those rules get voted in, and so now that's the rule of the convention. And so now let's say Dina's plan gets voted in. Dina's plan is the state plan. The state plan. With amendments. It does not amend Article 9, Section 2B for prorated votes. Doesn't have that in it. So if that were to get voted in, and let's say everybody just voted on that plan because they were like, yes, the state plan, right? It's going to be good. You would all vote to disenfranchise yourself because then the argument can be made that now that we're on the state plan, which went into effect immediately at the convention, we're back to prorated votes. It can be argued that we are.
No, you're not. The whole thing stems from the definition of an unorganized precinct.
There is no definition of an unorganized precinct other than in, the only time unorganized precincts are mentioned are on page 7 and page 33, 2 times. So either way, this is irrelevant. The relevant thing here is that why the heck are Matt Judge, Marcus Kinley, and what's his name, General Counsel, meddling in our election? Why? For whom? It's not for me. It's not for Chris, I'll tell you that. Because the same person who's got Marcus as his guy on the inside is also spreading rumors about Chris Meadows that are not true. Which if you hear any rumors about Chris Meadows, they are 100% a lie, and I personally have seen the evidence of their truth. There is so much, this is like the wildest west of elections that has ever happened in Guilford County. But what I really want to know is why these guys from the state are meddling in our election, and Dina, why are you helping and fighting for them?
I'm not fighting for anybody. Excuse me. If you're on a convention committee, could you please stand? Because we're all being accused of rigging the election here. These are people who are...
No, Marcus Kinley, Matt Judge, and the General Counsel of the NCGOP are being accused of rigging an election here.
You just asked her why she's going along with it.
Yes, and I asked her why she's going along with it.
I spoke to David Gleason today. Once I heard about this effort, I called him. And I said, David, what can you tell me about what's going on? And he said, you take it and however you want to take it. This is what he told me. He said he's been working this issue for the last 3 weeks. That's correct. Yes, even though I understand he's been ill. He's been talking with the leaders at the Republican leaders at the state level. And his last conversation was only last week, maybe Friday, I forget exactly what day he said, that he had reached an agreement with the general counsel, in which the general counsel said, for our convention on Saturday, 1 delegate, 1 vote.
And is he organizing the precincts?
We didn't talk about that. What he said was that if anything comes from the floor that talks about a prorated voting or anything like that, he will call that person out of order and he will not let them speak.
There is a parliamentary procedure that person can use to then get a vote to speak.
I'm only telling you,
I'm just saying it.
and I'm just
Yeah.
saying that this is what he told me.
Melodi, I just got off the phone with Matt Judge. He said 1 person, 1 vote. And I'll tell you right now, anything in that plan of organization can be changed at any time with a 70% vote of the delegates. So that whole plan of organization, if you've got a motion on the floor, if 70% of that delegates want that to pass, it passes.
It passes if their votes aren't prorated when they vote on it.
That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen now because we've been on the phone all week lighting a fire under everybody's butt for something to happen.
Listen, let me tell you this. If you go into this convention with this kind of attitude, you're going to lose and it's going to be your own fault.
What is my attitude? That I want a fair vote?
You need to go in there and with the most professional attitude you can go in there with and try to win this election by having the most delegates vote for you.
Right. Excuse me. I'm not going in there with this. And also, yeah, I want a fair vote so that everybody's vote counts for 1 vote.
Excuse me and my programmer of going in there and figuring out who's going to win and who, you know what, we don't have time for that. We didn't
So I remember,
bullshit
Dina, when you told me how you ran the algorithm on the weighted votes where I had a delegate in a precinct that got 24 votes, I would have gotten 24 votes. So if you didn't run the algorithms, then how did you tell me that?
This is all backwards. It's not an algorithm. This is all backwards. It's supposed to be the people who vote are the people who make the decision. We go in there, we say one vote, and we elect what we want. And the state will live with it.
That is correct. And you're welcome for fighting for you to make sure that all of your votes count and are not prorated, because that's what I've been doing for the last about week. The last decision that was made was David Gleason. He sent out an email to all of the delegates. Everybody's on the same page now. So I am aware of the last decision that was made. I am not throwing axes. I can see how you might think that. Yeah, I'm laughing because I came here tonight to tell you guys that for the last about week and a half, I've been fighting to make sure that all of the delegates' votes count one vote and letting you guys know what's going on. And now you're being disrespectful. Yes, David. Okay, he has sent out. Okay, it may be in your junk folder. He definitely sent out a mass email. It went out today. So if you didn't get it, it may be in your junk folder. And that's a good thing to know, to let him know that maybe some people did not get their emails.
Melody, I promise you that I personally will make sure that it's an honest election. I'm going to watch everything, and if I am wrong, I will agree with you, and I will stand up in front of everybody and say that you are right.
I'm not saying it's not going to be an honest election. I am reporting. No, I'm not.
What she's saying is, this is what happened to her this week.
I'm telling you my story of the week. I'm not accusing.
You are accusing when you say that we went through and figured out who was going to win.
That's not an accusation. I didn't say you went through and figured out how to win. Possible rigged election. Yeah, go back to my first slide. How I'm trying to stop a rigged election. So at the time that I made this and at the time that we sent the text message out, there was not a decision that it was going to be one vote, one person. Right, so look at the timestamp on the Guildford Patriots text that I sent out. It was before that. Right, that's all I'm trying to tell you is what's happening behind the scenes. I'm not trying to say that this election is rigged. I'm saying that, well, now it's not because we're not having prorated votes and everybody's vote is going to count. This is backfired.
Based on unorganized precinct, which the definition of an unorganized precinct is one that fails to organize at the precinct. We have 0 unorganized precincts by that definition.
Page 7 says that the chairman shall organize all unorganized precincts after the committee meeting.
No, it does not say that.
Who benefits? I'm not sure. Haven't figured that one out.
You're not going to figure it out because it didn't happen.
Have you ever had a prorated vote system? Yeah, you almost did. You almost did.
And you know what? If somebody wants a prorated convention, they can make the motion from the floor, and it has to suspend rules and have a prorated vote, and it has to pass by 70%.
So do you think it was okay? So was it okay for Marcus Kinley to be meddling in our election for the last 3 weeks trying to make us have a prorated system? Was it okay for the North Carolina GOP to be meddling in our election to try to make us have?
We exist because of the North Carolina GOP.
They were not meddling. They were answering a question, because if Marcus would have had his way, we wouldn't have rated and prorated averages. Because I went to the state to ask for a question, give clarification on this. Instead of taking Marcus to it. Okay? As long as it's not proportional and you're making statements that are not true.
Okay, we're done. We're done. I'm putting a stop to this. Melodi was giving information on what was going on. That's all we're doing, okay? Do you want to know what's going on behind the scenes or don't you? Okay? Okay, that's what we're doing. But I'm putting a stop to this now. We have other things we want to get to. If you have questions, you can ask questions after. But this was getting ugly. We're not a group to sit here and yell at people. We're not going to do that. And be rude. I'm sorry. I can't let that happen. Sorry. Just not going to do it. You know what we're going to do? Bob, let's go on to our second video so everybody has time to just calm down. This is a video about the second.
We would never be in this situation about the prorated votes or anything if people were engaged. No one, including myself, has read the plan of organization until this week. You know, you just walk in, you assume that the people, you know, at the county and at the state are just gonna do the right thing. And honestly, some of it could be just that they don't read the plan of organization because they're waiting for their boss to tell them what to do. And so you have this whole society that nobody knows what's going on. So it's either evil or stupid. Or both. I mean, we have a lot of both, but it is our fault. Everybody could have read the plan of organization, and it could have been so easy for someone to get up on the floor and make a proposal. No one really knows what the proposal is, so everyone's like, oh, well, you know, I like that guy. He wouldn't lie to me. I'll vote for it. And then, bam, everybody has a prorated vote. And I'm telling you, it has bounced back and forth 100 times this week. 100 times. Okay, we're in the clear. I'm like, okay, finally. Oh, no, we're back, prorated. Oh, and it's still, David Gleason said, I am saying as chair, it is gonna be one vote, one person, but it still could be brought up to the floor. So if you do not know what's going on Saturday, you could lose your vote. And that's no one's fault but ours. I mean, following the experts, I mean, how many people learned about COVID from the experts? Okay? So,
If that is brought to the floor, what are our options? What?
Anything that's brought to the floor, yeah, it might come in many forms. If my hecklers are, you know, willing to just chill, I'll attempt to explain what I can. Anything can be brought to the floor. If it's brought to the floor, it's going to have to pass by a 2/3 vote. I encourage everybody to study up on parliamentary procedure and how all of that works. It's something I'm still studying up. Demetria mentioned earlier about how someone could bring something to the floor and it be called out of order. Okay, well, if the person who gets called out of order knows parliamentary procedure, then they are going to say, I appeal the decision of the chair. And as soon as that happens, we go vote. And if 2/3 vote yes, then that person gets to get heard for whatever they want to vote on, or whatever they want to bring to the floor for the vote. So then that's another vote. So this could also lead to things like being at the convention all day. And you have to understand that strategy works in a lot of different ways, right? So somebody's strategy could be to be bringing things to the floor, getting called out of order, having a vote, having a vote, having a vote, having a vote. It's lunchtime, we still haven't gotten to the candidates left and half to the candidates yet, and half the delegates have left. That's a strategy. There's so many twisty, turny, naughty little strategies that can happen on the floor of a convention. And if none of us know parliamentary procedure, it's just gonna be, whew, and we're gonna be like, wait, what are we voting on this time? Because it happens fast. So wait, am I voting for him to bring it to the floor? Or did he bring it to the floor? What's on the floor? What am I voting on? I don't know. Just lucky it counts 1-to-1 unless you accidentally vote for it to be prorated. So I don't know if there's any type of way to ask questions. I don't know how eager anyone there will be to answer your question. If anybody has any questions. All my fans. You're welcome. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Yeah, this has nothing to do with my campaign. Clearly, this hurt it. That's what you get for telling the truth. Yes, back here. So hopefully, for me, I'm gonna, hopefully Jim Womack is gonna come show up because he is a parliamentarian. If you know anybody who's a parliamentarian, maybe they can also kind of school you, or, you know, invite as many parliamentarians as we can to just be sitting around helping us. Yes. Hopefully there's a Robert's Rule of Order for idiots out there we can watch on YouTube.
Ms. Fentress, I just want to say, make a good point. I've actually watched Tom.
That's another strategic trick, yes.
Y'all need to get involved in the Republican Party, know the rules, and start showing up to meetings and help us get Republicans elected.
And that's what we're trying to do.
Go through all this, you already know what's going on. I mean, it's actually a group of people trying to do the best they can, just like y'all.
Well, and the Guildford County Republican Party has done, like, David has fought for everybody, okay? And I am not here tonight to slam the Guildford County Republican Party, okay? David has been sick, and all of this has been going on while he's been dealing with that. And Chris has been acting chair and trying to catch up, and he's been doing the best that he can, and he has been very awesome and transparent to talk to. And as soon as David came back as full acting chair is when he nipped this in the bud real quick. He even talked to Jim Womack, who helped him. This is not a slam in any way on anybody at the GOP. I have questions for some people at the GOP that will not fully answer my question. It is a bit of a slam on these 3 state guys. What you doing? What you doing? Why? Why are you fighting so hard? Why is Marcus fighting people in his own committee over this? Did you guys catch that part that happened? Oh yeah, you should have heard me get told off out there. It was special. Yeah, transparency. I don't think they, want everybody to know the dirty laundry. But I mean, if they had have really listened, or maybe hadn't gotten attacked, or been able to talk more, this isn't dirty laundry about the GOP. This is actually me saying, thank you, David Gleason. If you were here tonight, I would have baked you a pie. Thank you, Chris Meadows. You were amazing. Thank you, Dina. I'll thank you more when you answer my questions more thoroughly at a different time that is not now. Does anybody else have any questions?
All right, so those community listening sessions are going to start at 6 o'clock and they'll go to 7:30 or until all your questions have been answered. Okay, just found that out. Yeah, so there's 4 of them. Sorry, Bronny's going to send a message, but I'll just go over it real quick. March 3rd at Union Square in Greensboro. Sorry, March 13th. March 15th at Sedalia Town Hall, March 20th at Carl Chavis YMCA in High Point, March 21st at Burr Mill Park. Okay, and then I sent it to Bronny. She said that she'll send it out to everybody as well. And I'll put it on my Facebook for those who I'm friends with on Facebook.
Also, the next commissioner meeting is March 16th. Maybe you should put that on your calendar.
Our last one was 6 hours. So.
Yeah. So, you can watch them on Facebook, but that doesn't do any good because you can't say anything. So I want to just say, Guildford Patriots is an educational group. We have been for 2 years trying to educate people on what's going on. And that's what we do. It's not always pretty, the information that we have, but that's what we're here to do, is to educate people. Do you want a fair vote on Saturday? I do. I want a fair vote. Okay, so that's what this has been all about. It's been flip-flop all week. We don't know why. But somebody needs to find out why, and it needs to be resolved and stay resolved. So that's what that's all about. So now that we're done with that, Oh, Dan, you got a question?